helping other people to sort out their lives there. Now I've lost my instructions. Okay. I'm not going to talk a lot. It's really just to tell you and share with you what is it that we expect to walk away from this session today. And I think those of you who've been to different sessions will know that at the end of the session, we are expected to leave the department with a few ideas such that we don't hold these sessions and they become talk shop. So we are here to collect instructions from you of what is it that we can do to better the system and make sure that South Africa compares with other nations that are innovative. The role that government plays, sometimes we talk, nothing happens. Sometimes we put things in place, they don't work. We want you to give us feedback and don't be shy in doing that because you won't get victimized. But I think we must have that robust discussion. The presenters will lead us in trying to answer some of the questions. So I'm trying to get rid of my phone and put it on silent. So we will have that kind of conversation. Now there are specific questions that I want you to think about, such that at the end of the session, when we get into the question and session answer mode, we work towards dealing with those key questions. But essentially, this session deals with two things. The first one, and all of that have to do with how do we make South Africa a successful, innovative nation. And in doing that from government side, there are funding instruments that we have to support innovation. On the one side, and on the other, we have what would typically call, and us as government, we call them enablers. But enablers, basically, they talk about, I see my colleagues, I don't know if my colleagues from CSIR are here, your incubators, your INTIA, your technology stations, and there are innovation centers that are being created by the private sector. And there's a whole range of other facilities that we are able to access where we get support that is not necessarily money. Some of these work, some of them work well, some of them don't. The same with the funding instrument. So we need to begin to think about what is it that we're going to tell the DST today to say these are the challenges, these are the things that work, and these are the things that don't work. And I want us to think about that with respect to both the funding instruments and with the enabling environment, so to say. So rather than reading the questions as they are, because this is the script that all of our presenters have, we will be tackling those issues, but just from a structure point of view of thinking about this. We requested CSIR to organize security at the doors, that whoever does not make a recommendation today doesn't walk out of the room. So get your thinking juices going. They will help you to exit the room when we are done. Thanks very much. So I'm going to call Lisa. You sorted? Cool. Okay, so join us. I think you're going to present from where you're sitting, or you're going to come here? I don't know how you prefer to do it. You don't know how to, all right, so I think I'll allow the speakers to speak. Oh, they have to come here. Okay, the cameraman, we're under instruction to stand here, so you don't come out on TV. All right, so Lisa will talk about, she is from basically the South African entrepreneur ecosystem. No, Aspen, you are from Aspen, you'll speak about the South African entrepreneurship ecosystem map. So we look forward to hearing from you. Okay, I'm told you have time limit, it's 12 minutes. Okay. And we don't negotiate. Okay. We're gonna stop you if you don't finish in 15 minutes, in 10 minutes. Yeah, we've got security. Thanks.
Thanks, Patrick. I'm not the tallest, so this might be a bit awkward, but hopefully you can hear better than seeing. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's really great to be here. From the energy that I've experienced this morning, it's a real privilege to be here, so thanks for having us. So my name is Lisa van Eck, and I'm the Regional Chapter Coordinator for the Aspen Network of Development Entrepreneurs, or ANDE. And essentially, I'm here to talk to you about a project that we did, a sector building exercise, where we mapped South Africa's entrepreneurial ecosystem. And the map is actually over there on your right. And we really want you to engage with it, take a look at it afterwards, see if there are names of organizations that are missing. There are post-its up there. Please don't write on the maps because we do reuse them, but place the post-its if there are places there where you know there are things missing or need to be changed. So just a quick intro into what ANDE does. So as I said, we're the Aspen Network of Development Entrepreneurs. We are essentially a network for intermediary organizations that support entrepreneurs in emerging markets. So we're not a network for entrepreneurs, but rather for those intermediaries that are supporting entrepreneurs. And they could really be anyone from an incubator to an accelerator to a corporate with an enterprise development program to a foundation. So it really is all of those intermediaries that are supporting entrepreneurs. They join our network, and we offer them services around global connecting, around helping them to create greater impact for the entrepreneurs that they are supporting. So that's essentially what we do. We support our members, and we're a neutral convener in the space where we connect the dots. So if you can go to slide 2. Do I have any? Oh, the pointer. Okay, so this is just a quick look at the ANDE universe, the ANDE network itself. And what you can see from this is every place where you see a leaf, that's where we have regional chapters. We're headquartered in Washington, D.C., but we have regional chapters in in 7 places around the world, talking to local ecosystems. And then you can see from the map that 73% of our members around the world are active in Africa, supporting small and growing businesses in Africa. And only 8% of our members are actually headquartered here, so we're very much trying to change that picture. And as we resource our local chapters or regional offices, build out, recruit more member organizations to join ANDE and drive the local agenda a lot more. And so core to why ANDE exists is that we believe in the power of small and growing businesses to essentially have a positive effect on society and ultimately be one solution towards alleviating poverty. And I think these could be potentially pretty obvious, but I think really, small and growing businesses have the power to do a lot of wonderful things, increase growth in terms of jobs, increase taxes, increase the local supplier base, and also improve access to a lot of products and services that can really help the public sector to address a lot of developmental challenges that we have. And then lastly, really can, through ownership and other opportunities, provide improvements in equality, which obviously is a huge challenge for us. And then in terms of the ANDE universe, this is kind of our members around the world. This is the breakdown of our membership. It's pretty representative of the entrepreneurial ecosystems generally. So about 30% of our members are, or just under, are investors. About 40% are capacity development providers. And then others are donors, corporates, and other things like that. I don't know why the slides have lost some categories there. So that would be corporates, and then advisory services, which would be like consultants. They're also part of the network. And then lastly, in terms of what ANDE does, this slide just shows you essentially, members that join our network, why do they join and what are the benefits that we give them. So, they're all supporting entrepreneurs. We provide them services around connecting them globally through tailored support and understanding their needs. We give them lots of opportunities to build knowledge, so we help them to better learn how to support entrepreneurs by convening, by having dialogues, by doing trainings. And then finally, a core part of our work is strengthening the ecosystem, which is kind of our non-exclusive offering. So it's not only for members, but really, core to what we do. And which brings me to the reason why we did the map over there, which was really to firstly help our members, but also understand who is doing what in the ecosystem and where the gaps are. And I'll speak a little bit more about that. So this just gives you a sense quickly of why we did the map. As I said, core to what we do is to support our members who are supporting small businesses. So, we wanted to give an opportunity for them to understand who was doing what, which other players were there, which partners there were to, opportunities there were to partner, and also Andy has a lot of expertise in mapping, so we've done mapping projects in many regions across the world of different ecosystems. So it was really something we felt that was needed in South Africa and what we perceived to be a very active but fragmented ecosystem. And there wasn't really a picture of, a simple map out there of the ecosystem. So we did this map, and it was a pretty simple project, but the beauty really came in the simplicity of it, because it's been really well received, and lots of people seem to engage with it and use it. And so our first copy of the map we did was in 2014. We released it in early 2015. And then, since then, we recognized that we wanted to, firstly, add a lot of new Andy members that had joined the network, and secondly, we recognized that a lot more ecosystem players had joined, were now active in the ecosystem, and so we decided to update it, and we actually released this updated version at the Global Entrepreneurship Congress, which was in Joburg this year in March. And it was quite surprising to us that there were over 100 new organizations in the last 2 years that we'd added to the map, and not many that we deleted. So clearly there's a huge drive in the country towards the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So how to use the map. Essentially this map was done, as I say, for members and for intermediary organizations to see where they're playing and who they could partner with, and also where the gaps are. But this is also a fantastic tool for entrepreneurs as well, who actually just want a list of who is supporting entrepreneurs in the country. I think, a lot of times entrepreneurs just don't know, where the opportunities lie and who's supporting. And so this is just a simple list that puts everything in one place. And then obviously just to kind of really reinforce the need for collaboration in a fragmented ecosystem. So if I can just ask the tech guys to open our map, which is on the side, but just to get a digital copy so you can see a bit clearer. I'll take you through how it works. So essentially, it's a 5-page document which lists organizations, both direct finance providers and capacity providers, that are providing support to entrepreneurs in South Africa, both international and local players, with some infographics, and then 10 pages of more detailed sections, which actually breaks the support players down into stakeholder groups and plots them along the business life cycle that they're supporting. So who's supporting at ideation, who's supporting at the growth phase, and things like that. So on this page, you can just basically see that we plotted 340 organizations in the entrepreneurial ecosystem that we are aware of, and we have done various consultations, and we are aware of others that need to be on there, but for the most part, it seems like we've captured a fair amount, so that's how big we see. That's in terms of direct support, the amount of organizations supporting entrepreneurs. About 40% of those are capacity providers and 30% investors, so slightly more on the capacity side. And then we plotted about 100 other organizations that were providing support, which I'll show you a bit further down. So on the next page, this lists all the funders, basically, in South Africa. So it plots them by who's the government funders, the fund managers, the VCs, and angel investors, and then all of the names with an aspen leaf, the blue leaf, are the Andy members that we have that are part of our network. So just going down, those are the different funders, and if you go further down, this just was plotting how many names are in the different buckets and where the gaps are in terms of where they're supporting. So we can clearly sort of identify some gaps in finance and capacity support. And if you scroll down further, you'll get to the capacity development providers, the government programs, the corporate ED programs, and others, and then the non-profit and for-profit programs. And then further down is the other support players like media, foundations, consultants, etc. And then if you had to go back up, which you don't have to now, and you had to click on one of those buckets, it will take you to these more detailed sections which actually can show you which organizations are supporting at what stage. So this is useful for intermediaries to know who to partner with at the stages where they aren't supporting, and also to identify gaps and for entrepreneurs as well to know. So I don't have much time, but I just want to quickly make some observations. If you could go back onto the slide, show. Thanks. So essentially what can we tell from this? I mean, since our previous map, the ecosystem clearly has grown. I mean, it's very active, especially if we look at research and which compares to other ecosystems with, we have very great support from both public and private sector, greater increase in corporate support, probably due to the BE codes and enterprise and supply development focus. We also have seen quite a big increase in the number of VCs, but yet again, that really kind of comes into question because we do have a very nascent VC market in South Africa, and a lot of them, when we dug a bit deeper, were sort of self-proclaimed VCs, but they were actually offering more private equity and less risk-averse finance. And yeah, so that's kind of some of the findings, which I'll go into more in terms of recommendations next. These are some of the names of ones that we know are missing. And then the map is kind of revealing in terms of certain key points which I think are necessary to highlight. And I like this picture because not only does it have puzzle pieces that aren't connected, because there's a lot of coordination and collaboration that is required, but also highlights that we need to focus on skills. A lot of the time you have here this dual thing of funders saying that there are no investment-ready opportunities and entrepreneurs saying that there's no funding. If you look at research that has recently been done by the Alan Gray Orbis Foundation and the SAB Foundation, Bridget is unfortunately not here, they really highlight the need for skills, but we have, and the map has shown that we have seen an abundance of, or an increase of support players providing business development support, but what the map does not show is which ones are being effective. So there's a huge need for us to now understand, okay, here's what we have, the ecosystem has exploded, but what is actually working? So that's a real next step that is required. And then second last slide, a big thing, I suppose, as well, is that we saw a lack of support at the ideation stage, at the early stages, both in terms of funding and capacity support. And so, this really kind of comes down again to, a need for better de-risking of support and collaboration to de-risk opportunities, and then secondly, around, our risk appetite more generally, which I think, we still are missing a lot of opportunities. And then I've skipped over quite a few things, but I think in terms of recommendations, and these are things I think we should really try and flesh out as a group in the discussion section after we've presented. Some of the things that this map can potentially lead to next steps. So for instance, it lists names, but it doesn't talk about sector-specific support. So I think there's a lot of deep diving that we need to do around, in manufacturing, are all the parts there that, the support that's required? Is it in line with national industrial policy and strategies as well? Is it, there's also a big need, I think, for addressing information asymmetries. So how do we make this map or other projects like this that are mapping the ecosystem accessible to entrepreneurs so that they know what opportunities are out there, and likewise for the support players to be matched better and coordinated. So that's a big one. And so ultimately, yeah, it's not more, it's better. So let's understand what is working on the map, which players are actually proving effective, and this means that we need to focus a lot more on impact measurement and quality performance. So, we are seeing initiatives that are starting to encourage organizations to share their data to actually measure if we are having any impact. And I think we can do a far better job of allocating resources if we understand what is actually working instead of throwing more money at the problem. And then, of course, just a much more collaborative and coordinated approach. So those are some of the things. I haven't touched much on the youth and the STI space, but I think that the map also presents an opportunity, perhaps, if not to do more provincial mapping, but also to do maybe some STI mapping specifically to look at exactly what support is there. That's potentially an area where we can take this forward. So I encourage you to give us feedback, check out the map, see if you can use it as well. And yeah, let's work together to create a more coordinated ecosystem. Thanks.
Thanks, Lisa. I think your presentation really covered a lot of the aspects that we asked for. Stayed to the script. Can I ask one quick question? All of those organizations that we've shown are at different categories. When we go to the map, is it clickable? They are not clickable links.
So no, you'd have to Google search them
All
yourself,
right.
but there are areas that are more interactive. So if you click on government, you'll go down to the bottom section, but you can't click on the actual name.
Okay, all right. Okay, colleagues, I think you've all heard. We'll, have further discussion about these elements when we get to the Q&A session. Mr. Shabangu, we have Sandile Shabangu. I'm about to lose my job, colleagues, because I didn't introduce you to one of my bosses here, who put me on the stage. We have Ms. Busisiwe Nduli. She's the one who's been threatening you with 5 minutes to go, 2 minutes to go. So she's keeping the time, it's not me. Yeah, so she's taking detailed notes of what is it that we are saying, because really the intention is to walk away with stuff that has to be actioned going forward. So come through, sir, it's your turn.
Good afternoon. My name is Sandile Shabang, and I'm from the Startup Mzansi Foundation. Startup Mzansi Foundation is a social enterprise that is supporting innovative youth entrepreneurship in South Africa. Our goal is to lay the foundation by bringing together the essential elements to create a viable ecosystem from which innovative entrepreneurs and startups can actually accelerate their growth. How do you press this? Okay. Right. Whether you're preparing to launch your first startup or seeking connections to industry leaders or just curious about entrepreneurship in general, the Startup Mzansi Foundation has, over the past 7 years, developed exciting resources and tools and techniques to actually help you learn and grow as an entrepreneur and innovator. Today, I just want to touch on, firstly, I want to talk about the importance of startups for economic development. I think throughout the day, we've been hearing speakers talking about entrepreneurship, just touching just a bit there. And then my take will be, how then do we use like entrepreneurship as an effective vehicle to transform our country and move forward, touching all these tools like science and technology, making sure that we are creating businesses and startups that are responding to the economy. So we've identified that startups are important for innovations. They are obviously driving the knowledge-based economy. They act as, they contribute to quick development of new technologies into the market. So startups are basically the vehicle to introduce. So basically, let's say you're a scientist and you have some sort of an invention of some sort, then you can actually pick up a startup and implement your ideas via a startup. So they encourage innovations. Startups are important for the new jobs that are actually bringing into the market. The jobs that were there about 20 years ago, some of them, they're not here today. So with technology, everything changes. So startups, in the long run, they create employment opportunities, and they also can be used to activate the Generation Y, those ones who have their degrees and stuff like that, but they cannot put their skills into practice. So with startups, they can actually put their skills into practice and gain some knowledge and validate some ideas. Startups, they are also important in terms of the new mindsets that they're bringing into the market. So startups, they help us change, the current values. Some of the values that we have, especially in Africa, some of them, they are outdated. And startups, they can actually be an effective way of introducing new values into our society. For example, so people can actually now use Uber, to move around, and there's Uber Eats, there's this and this and this. So with startups, you can actually implement and put in like new values into the economy. The other important thing about startups, they can be used for research. So they are closely connected to knowledge institutions. We're talking about the universities, we're talking about the research foundations and stuff like that. So they can actually like act as role models for students and researchers to implement their ideas via startups. And lastly, they are important because of the new competitive dynamics that they are bringing into the markets. For example, if a big company that's operating in an industry has been sleeping on its laurels, all of a sudden there comes a startup, disrupts the market, and then the other big company actually wakes up and create employment opportunities and grows the economy. So startups are important for these 5 reasons. I'd also like to look at the development stages of startups. We've sat down and we've engaged over about like 12,000 startups nationally. We looked at the important stages for startups. For example, the startups that are at the pre-incubation level, the startups that are like should be like getting into the incubators. Some of them they're at the accelerator stage. Some of them they're at the co-working spaces. So we basically have to be responding by providing resources and tools that are responding to their needs, their different needs. Some of them, they're just at the ideation stage. How then do you take an idea and you conceptualize it, you validate that concept, you prototype, and then from there you scale up that model that you have into becoming an established company. So those are some of the things that we're thinking are very, very important. And there are two very, very important things for me as the startup guy in South Africa, and we've identified that 2 things. For example, that's number 1, that's the talent motivation and activation. It's just very, very, very important for us to focus on the new talent and engage it. The guys that are actually coming into the market, you'd find that there's a lot of incubators and accelerators and all the support institutions that are there. But when you're going out there to them, you're looking for support. There are some certain requirements that, for example, you go to an incubator, you want to become a part of their program. They're saying like, you should be making 2 million, you should be doing this and this, and the requirements. So I think you've also, Lisa, you've indicated that there's like little support for the guys that are actually at the early stage, the guys that with ideas. How then do we ensure that the talent that's just there, we motivate and we engage that talent to become like scalable businesses? And from there, it comes to the stages of founding the company. And how then can we assist in helping startups to start the validation learning process? Because a startup, obviously, if by a definition that we've adopted at the Startup Mzansi Foundation, we've adopted the definition to say a startup is any human institution that is designed to create products and services under conditions of extreme uncertainty. And when you're looking at that, it doesn't mean that startups are small, organizations or the small guys or the one-man organizations. Startups are temporary in nature. They are there to actually search for a scalable business model. So we're trying to ensure that there should be an ecosystem that is conducive, an ecosystem that is responding to the various needs of these startups. For example, intellectual property is very, very important in South Africa. There are entrepreneurs who are struggling. You come up with innovative ideas, and when the next thing you know it, someone has the very same idea or the same company and stuff like that. What can we do to actually protect the entrepreneurs that are actually coming up with innovative ideas? I'm going to be time conscious. We're looking at talking about the startup ecosystem. The startup ecosystem in South Africa, it consists of various players. So, and therefore, we need to be, like all the players within the ecosystem, they need to actually play a certain role. Entrepreneurship or science and technology is not an issue of government alone. If we're saying like this thing it should be addressed by government, then we're doing it, the whole thing, we're doing it wrong. So we rather should be focusing on ensuring that all the stakeholders within the ecosystem, they have a role to play. For example, the girlfriends and the boyfriends, they have a role to play, like in an entrepreneur's life, for example, because you are a human being, and as soon as you're coming up with innovations, you need some sort of a support structure and support system. That's just the ecosystem. Some of the recommendations that we're making at Startup Mzansi, we're saying that just 3 of them: access to finance, talent motivation, and governance. with the access to finance, we're saying like there should be, like the support to venture capitalists should be intensified. The support to like the development of angel investors. There's also like, there needs to be an environment for crowdfunding. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of players that are actually on the crowdfunding space. And then lastly, a very, very important piece into this whole thing is the establishment of a test bed, what we're calling a test bed for these new ideas that are coming. For example, you're a scientist, you're coming up with an idea. How then do we test that idea and put it into the market? Because not all ideas are business ideas, but then we have to test them in some way. For talent motivation, we're doing workshops, events, and conferences, and then we're also doing like media and public, using like public spaces to actually drive entrepreneurship conversations. And then the last one, we're saying like the entrepreneurship ecosystem or the science, technology, and innovation space should be governed in a proper way. There should be some sort of a transparent and efficient way of actually governing this whole ecosystem. And okay, now I'd like to also introduce one of our products, Startup Mzansi, is the Startup app. Startup app is basically an app for entrepreneurs to connect with all the resources that they need to start and stay started. I don't really need to stress more about that. It's basically an interactive version of the ecosystem map like Lisa just presented. We also have an ecosystem map within the app that is clickable. You can actually click, you get directions, you get contact details. We will be working with Lisa and Andy and stuff like that to actually try and incorporate all these things into the app and see how then can we move like South Africa forward. Who is this app for? It is for startups, it's for investors, it's for other stakeholders within the ecosystem as defined on the ecosystem, like the media, the government, the girlfriends, the boyfriends. They also have some sort of a role to play into this whole thing. What does the app do? It provides a meeting place and voice for entrepreneurs. It aggregates the resources and support that is available to entrepreneurs based on their locations, whether you're in Limpopo or you're in Eastern Cape. You are able to actually get access to resources that are actually speaking to your needs. It also connects you to online and in-person networks. You can speak to mentors. You can get access to learning resources, tutorials, case studies, templates, the likes. It also provides you support in terms of the continuum of enterprise growth. For example, how then do you move from that ideation stage, from having that idea into like concept? So we basically have all the processes and a guide like in place. And we have other initiatives as Startup Mzansi, like we have our own media program, because the media program that's just like generally out there, it doesn't really speak to startups, and entrepreneurs and stuff like that. So we try to actually establish our own media agenda so as to speak to the needs of all these entrepreneurs that are out there. I think with just that, I'm trying to respect the time. That will be just the end of my presentation. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can do so. Check out our website, Startup App, co.za. That's the app. That's where you can actually get it, or Startup Mzansi. So find us in any social media and stuff. Thank you.
You are the CEO. Yes. We must chat. I need a job, my friend. Presented good stuff there. Yeah, no, thanks very much. Thanks very much. I think it was a good, informative presentation, the second one. Between me and the rapporteur, the Busi, we had good news, and we'll report this to the minister that there's a partnership going between Ande and the Startup Mzansi. So there's one thing that we'll take. Our last speaker then will be Mr. Allen van der Meulen. He comes from R-Labs, right? In Sandile's presentation, he spoke about core working spaces and so on. The good news is that the Department of Science and Technology is on a big mission to look at living labs as something to can grow in the country. And I think your story will be an interesting one, just to share with colleagues how they work and their own experiences. All right, so you look like a better age speaker than him. Yeah, because you are youth. I think he's my age.
No, we all use add-on.
Okay, okay, cool.
Okay, testing 1, 2. Hi guys, are you guys still okay? Yo, I don't know what okay means here, but that doesn't seem okay. So I'm from Ellen. My name is Ellen. I'm from Art Labs. So I do speak a bit fast. So if at any time I go too fast, just raise your hand and then I'll slow down. I'm dead serious. You'd be surprised. Okay. So the Youth Cafe is essentially a place where young people can come and collaborate, you know, and learn from other young people, be taught by other young people, and actually just be a young person. So I'm just going to give you guys a bit more context, if it's okay. Sorry, Mr. Projector guy, can you play the video, please? Don't worry, this is not the video. Well, this is what technology is, you know. A while back, people had to innovate in order to create downloading, and now we're witnessing it firsthand, man. And that was created probably by a young person who was just sick of the slow download speeds they had back in the day of dial-up, where it took half an hour to download one picture. Now we can get one video in like 30 seconds, which is like the length of a TV advert. That's a fact. Cool, I'll just go on so long. So the Youth Cafe space or innovation space should be a place where innovators can come and innovate. Because schools, I don't know how it is here, but schools somehow turn people away because all the colors of the walls are dull, it's boring. There's always like this teacher shouting at you and talking to you and asking you if you understand, and then you nod your head yes, and then you fail, and then people don't understand what happened because you're supposed to be smart or you have so much potential. I expect more from you, Ellen. So these are things that we hear all the time, right? But what are the alternatives to hearing that? Is it just something I'm going to hear every day for the rest of my life? So when we were trying to plan the Youth Cafe, there's always this expression that people say, it's kind of like you jump off a cliff and then you build a plane on the way down, which is like crazy when you think about it in a practical sense. But that's sometimes what entrepreneurs do. We spoke a lot about science and all those things, and all these entrepreneurs and innovators having degrees and masters and all these kind of things, but there are also a large percentage of okay, I guess it's playing now.
People see youth as a problem. People see youth as statistics. I'm not a statistic. I'm a part of the solution. My name is Eric Kutsi. I am an entrepreneur. I live in Lost City in Mitchell's Plain. It is a world of gangs, violence and poverty. I was told at a very young age that I was born with fetal alcohol syndrome. People made me feel different, insulted me. I joined the gang because I was afraid. Only direction that I saw was a bad direction. So now I see it more positive. Finally found the place where I fit in. This community believes in the power of youth teaching other youth. We have project management, event management, coding, photography, social innovation. We're trying to develop future leaders. I'm proof of it. I started out as a student and now I'm part of the staff. We are giving youth the tools to change themselves as well as their communities. My dream is to serve people, change people. That's the type of entrepreneur I want to be. I believe that the best investment is investing in young people.
Cool. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So that's a bit more context. So whenever I speak, just keep that in mind. So that guy you're seeing there, he's actually an entrepreneur. He's an innovator. He's someone who's actually helping his community. But that's not the guy I met, because we were students together. So the guy I met was a guy who would stop the class. So a session would happen like this. He'd get up at the back and start a fight with the person next to him, and then just go back to sitting and go back to learning. So the type of guy that we have now is a totally different person. So the only way he got to that point was he was in a space where he was allowed to collaborate with different people. Because sometimes, I don't know how it is with everyone, but imagine you didn't have any clothes to wear to this event. Would you have come? No. Now imagine you didn't have the knowledge to speak to investors. Would you speak? So you're supposed to innovate, but you don't know any of these terms people are throwing around. People are saying, what is your POI? How are you going to do M&E? Are you an SMME? It sounds like all these random acronyms sound like we're just saying the alphabet, but I'm supposed to speak to this person and I don't understand what's going on. And whenever people talk to you, they assume that you should know. Why? Because you are innovator. You are entrepreneur. So we make so much assumptions on a regular day that we alienate a lot of youth. And not all youth are degree holders, not all youth are graduates. This guy dropped out in grade 11. He only finished his matric, I think, last year or something, because he wanted to, not because he had to. So this man, he has this crazy idea of raising the property value in his community, because he believes that crime is linked to property value. So if he can raise the property value, there will be less crime. But that's crazy. If he goes to speak to an investor and he's like, I swear to you, if you give me like R1 million, I'm going to raise the property value and there'll be no crime. You'll sound like a crazy person, but it's true. Look at areas with a high property value, there is less crime, which is fact. But because he doesn't know how to articulate himself, he sounds like a crazy person. So what we're trying to do at these innovative spaces is promote more practical learning, where you come and learn about social enterprise. You can't just say, I understand. You say you know about business, go out and go make a sale. The only way you continue to the next week is if you actually come back with a few clients. You learned how to build a website today? Okay, go build a website for the shop across the street. Once you do that, you will graduate. Because too much time, there's a lot of theory and speaking. I like the gentleman that was speaking about how it always ends with talk. I myself, I hate panels. I hate everything to do with panels and discussions, because if it just stays with discussions, we are, I think, like, let's say 30 people in this room right today, so we need to be able to collaborate. So the innovation space is a place for young people to come and collaborate. And then the environment itself, it's filled with colors. There's computers, there's technology, and all these things. So this is what young people can access. But it's not just all easy. There's a lot of challenges that we face as well. Remember, when people want to become an entrepreneur, an innovator, they actually have to deal with pressures from their family. So you want to start your own business, but you don't have a job because you're starting your own business. So your family is like, but you're not working. And you're like, yeah, but I have a dream, a business, and this man is so excited. He knows firsthand. So, but the fact that you have a business is not good enough. You can speak about the potential income you're going to generate, the potential lives you're going to affect. And they're like, yeah, but is there bread on the table? And you're like, I'm trying to put bread on everyone's tables. And they're like, but what about ours? So, it's not just easy for an entrepreneur or innovator to innovate. Another thing is, there is no support for their business, because they don't, like I said, they don't know the terms. So even if they have a brilliant idea, they're not even going to make it to these accelerator programs or make it to these sort of startup events, because they just feel intimidated. Every time they go, they hear this higher grade English and a higher grade level of speaking that they just won't enter. So sometimes it's not just good enough to speak in someone's language, but also to speak the way they speak. Because you speak to your friends in slang. I live in Mitchells Plain, Cape Town, so we're just like, yo, my bro, do this and do that. But now I'm in the class and they're like, young man, are you familiar with the terms? So imagine learning in that sort of environment, the total opposite of what you're used to. Whereas in what we do in our space, we speak, I'm talking about ghetto level. I'm talking about, the way they speak in the Cape Flats, that's how we speak in the classes. And what we found was that actually gets through to people. So that's something that works for us, because we're not just trying to break, racial barriers, language barriers. We're trying to break social barriers as well. Another thing that we found is that not all people that come to innovative spaces actually want to run their own business. They want to innovate in someone else's business. They actually want to find work. But a lot of times, even graduates don't have any work experience because they are graduates. They've been studying, or they spend all their time, not going out with friends, not partying, just focusing on their schoolwork, because that's what good students do. And so that's what they've been doing for their whole life. And now they actually can't, find employment. And then that's another problem. So they do want to work, but they don't have any work experience. And again, they can't go out and volunteer because their parents don't want bread on the table. Okay, 3 minutes. I feel like we had, okay, I didn't expect that. I thought there was a lot more time. Normally I speak faster, so I have enough time left. I slowed down for this event. Okay, so then also, what worked for us was we started introducing a virtual currency, which we called Zlato. Sorry, can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, I've only got pictures, not like real slides. I guess I'm saying thank you. Okay, I don't know, this thing is not working. There we go. So we have like a few solutions. So one of our solutions is called Zlato, which is a virtual currency. So what we're doing is every time someone comes and attends any of the workshops at the innovation space, they actually earn sort of like points. Then with those points, they can buy things that they need. So they can go out and actually go to ShopRite with their points and then go buy a loaf of bread, a liter of milk, peanut butter for the bread and butter, because people don't just want bread on the table, they want something to go along with it. So they'll be able to buy all those things. And another thing is, people don't realize how expensive it is to go out and find work. If you have to travel to different interviews every single day and have shirts for those interviews and clothing and airtime to be able to contact the people, it can become quite expensive, something like 1,000 Rand a month. Sometimes it's even cheaper for you to just be unemployed than go out and find work. So that's how hectic it is. So what we're trying to introduce with our Zlato virtual currency, we want to eliminate a lot of the cost involved with finding work. So young people can go out and volunteer their time at any organization that they choose, gain work experience, and then also have now a list of references that show proof that they actually work there. And not just that, via the application, they can actually share like a work asset, which will actually list how much hours they spent, helping the environment, how much hours they spent pursuing opportunities, how much hours they spent in the community, and how much people they influenced. Because what we want to give young people is the opportunity to show people who they are. Because your CV just tells people what you know. My CV says, yeah, I know computers, how to build websites, graphic design. It's just like a long list of you bragging. But when you can show someone the type of person that you are, that will get you hired. Because you tell, everybody's CV says the same thing. When they ask for motivation or something along those lines, I'm hardworking, I'm very dedicated, I will take your company to the next level, I am here for you, and I am for the people. So that means nothing to someone looking at your CV. So what we're trying to do is give people a tangible way for them to actually see who you are. And then lastly, so once people come to the Youth Cafe and they actually have ideas that we see value in, they can apply for an accelerator in Novia. So the criteria for that accelerator is simple. Do you have an idea? Yes. Do you think it can work? Yes. Are you willing to test? Yes. Can you give us like 2 days a week to validate it? Yes, you in. Assuming you have an actual idea and you put in the effort. Because sometimes people will tell you that they're there for you, but with all those, strings attached. So we need to walk around with some scissors for ourselves, man. So I think I have about 1 minute left. So I just want to say to the young people in this room, we're hearing a lot of from adults and a lot of people trying to help us young people, but if we don't collaborate amongst ourselves today before we leave, and we at the next event complaining about the same things, it becomes our fault. So I want us to succeed. I believe you want us to succeed, because I'm not trying to be the country that's going to be in debt for the rest of our lives. I'm not going to have people laugh at what's happening in our country or our situation when we have the ability to change it. You guys are all innovators. We are all innovators, so let's innovate on our lives. Thank you.
I want all the young people in the room to raise their hands. Ay. Others are in denial. No, you guys. Okay. No, what is young? I don't know, you choose. Okay, but the colleague from the DST is here. I think we are the wrong people in this room after he speaks and listening to him, guys. It's amazing how, I suppose we've moved on, and these young guys have a way of looking at things. You can never take that for granted. And yeah, we will trust you to lead. I think we need to back off, go do other things. I've learned a lot from this session. The rapporteur will have captured a lot of notes, but I want you, the youth, because you all say you are youth, to say how do we do the types of things that Alan said we should do. So I said when we started, there are a couple of questions that we need to answer. That will lead us to coming up with some kind of a script that tells government, proxied by the DST, what is it that needs to be done to make the system work better and respond to the issues that people like Alan have raised. So I have 5 of these. I'm reading them out, and then I'm going to ask that you raise your hand, speak to any of the issues, you raise your hand or ask a question to the panel, and then it can be an interactive session. We allow maybe 15, 20 minutes for this discussion to happen, then I can give you an early night. It's okay if we make that deal. And except those that don't answer or ask questions, the securities are at the door. All right, so if I may put them this way, the first question that I think I want us to talk to is basically to say honestly, what is it that we think is working, that is making the innovation ecosystem productive, and that makes young people succeed in doing what they do, namely innovate and start companies. The second one, what are the challenges with regards to the different funding streams that government has put in place to support innovators? What is it that is not working well in the innovation support environment? The fourth question, or rather, let me say the fourth question is, what kind of solutions should we look to solve or strengthen some of the enablers that we have? What kind of enablers should we put in place? And perhaps come up with your own recommendations. And in saying that, and I did say when we started, please don't feel that somebody will chase you after this and say, what did you say? Say it out now. This may be your last chance. And I think I'm going to open the floor for comments and questions and inputs. But the speakers, so who has questions? Who has questions? Can we have show of hands so we can take stock of how much time we need? All right. So there's men that lifted their hands this side. I saw a lady this side, so I'll start with the lady. So, we have quite a number of hands. Oh, okay, I see another hand there, a good friend of mine. Okay, so I'm going to start with that lady this side. Let's start with this side of the corridor first, then we go over the side. I will say maybe we take 6 questions at a time, or 6 people at a time who ask questions. Is it a fair distribution? I negotiate, colleagues. You tell me, it's your stage. So we do 6 and then we do 6. So let's start this side. Ma'am, you go first and then the gentleman will follow you. Please introduce yourself. Perhaps it will help to tell us who you are as well.
Thank you, Chair. It's Patega Mbambiso from the CSIR. In terms of answering some of the questions that you posed initially with respect to what works, I mean, we've listened to all the innovative ideas that have been shared amongst the youth that we had today. So definitely in terms of having youth centers and seeing youth coming together, coming up with all those innovative ideas. I think that is in place, but it's the support thereof to make sure that, you know, those centers become a success. And I mean, some of the challenges at the CSIR, we also run an incubation program, and some of the challenges are really around business development and access to finance in terms of supporting our entrepreneurs. So, so I suppose the question then to the DST and other, you know, government department is how do we make a success of the technologies that have been developed, the initiatives that have taken place in terms of creating these youth centers, and how do we take these concepts into the market space? How do we commercialize them? Because I mean, it's fascinating. The story about our labs, I've never heard of them, but it's fascinating. So how do we roll that concept around all 9 provinces and actually address the current issue of high youth unemployment? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I saw a gentleman sitting next to you, yes, sir. Okay, we come to you after.
Okay, afternoon everyone. My name is Pumlani Msomi. I represent University of Johannesburg, and I'm also a co-founder of Shai Consulting, which is a water treatment company. Basically, it's not really a question. Firstly, I want to thank all the speakers for a great talk. And I want to point out specifically Lisa. We really appreciate your organization, and it really does connect us to a lot of people. But the only problem I have, the truth is, as young people, we are able to start our own business in this lifetime. The only problem we're facing is breaking in the market. The company I own, I was able to start up and continue with it. But the problem is having client or building a client base. So what I want from DST or other government stakeholders is to help us get that client base. For example, I'm in water treatment system. Why doesn't DST or any entities introduce me to rainwater? Give me a portion or a part within the rainwater system where I can operate. Then I can gain experience, I can get a good reputation, then I can continue my business. Then after doing that, I'll be able to get more customers which gonna rely on me. The problem we have is, as South African, we don't want to recognize or support our local entrepreneurs. We think just because I'm a black South African and I have a maintenance company, for example, I'm not experienced enough to do that job. You can give it to a German guy who's been in South Africa for the last 20 years, who's able to do that job. So I'm saying it's time we start supporting our people. It's time we give our own people a chance within those job opportunities. Thank you.
Okay, I saw the third gentleman there, and then we jump the corridor. You are last on the side. Can you speak a little louder and then explain what product is that?
Yeah, can you?
All right, we noted that question. Okay, so we come to this side. I'll start with you, sir.
Afternoon, everyone. My name is Nkosana Madi. I'm one of the guys who are under the Grassroots Innovation Program. My question is very simple, is to Ellen. I love what you're doing with your R-Lab. Simple question, how do I franchise R-Lab to my hood? Because I feel like it's gonna talk to one of the things that you were saying, which were like the challenges. I think if we can get a lot of entrepreneurs and innovators under one space, under one place where they can feel comfortable to actually express themselves in the way they feel is best, I think this is the one of the tools that can be used to actually tackle the issue of them having not to get information as to where to go if they want stuff or they want whether it be funding or any other thing that's related to business. But if we have places, more of places like the RLab, I think it's gonna hit a lot of beds with one stone. So that's my question. Thank you.
Okay, it's about replicating good examples. Cool. Sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Pumlani Mgomezulu, and I'm an innovation entrepreneur involved in the e-mobility space. We develop and innovate around electric cars. Just to answer your question number 1, 2, and 4 at the same time, right? Based on the experience that I have behind approaching different DFIs on the funding space, as well as enablers, there's common problems that you continuously encounter as entrepreneurs and innovators. And one of them is behind the enablers, the speed of response is quite very slow compared to our innovation. And when we innovate versus the world. So if you look at the electric car space, if we can't come up with a solution in a month's time, you find that there's already another development somewhere else. So, and the issue is on the enablers side is that the people that are sitting behind the desks that we're presenting to are not entrepreneurs, as well as they're not innovators. So it's just people that are looking at us with a bank's perspective. So if you are an entrepreneur or you're an innovator, you would understand that if your idea is not bankable in the eyes of those people, then you're not going to go anywhere else. To answer your number 4, in terms of the, if we look at what, or if I try and sum up what all 3 of our speakers have actually said, it looks to me like there is a need that somehow maybe the DST can be able to vacuum all of these ideas and then relaunch them out there for everybody to actually know about them and replicate. So I hear different kinds of ideas, but if there could be a way of vacuuming them as well as relaunching them in such a way that they appear in policies, in order for somebody sitting there back at home to understand that I don't really need to go to a DFI or the bank. I can innovatively find a way in this, whether it's a website or whether it's a hub or whatever. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we have how many people who spoke? 5. We had 4 on the side, 5, we need 1 this side. Okay, sir, you'll be the last one for now, and we'll take another round.
Thank you. My name is Bindelan Khanti. Let me first thank the panelists there, but also remind myself about the sub-theme of what we are talking about here now, which is innovation, support, and funding. Unfortunately for me, I have to be realistic. There is only one entrepreneur from the panelists, and others are from the non-profit organizations. Now we're talking about real funding for real young entrepreneurs. So my recommendation is that from the Aspen lady, sorry, I just forgot your name there, Olisa, the ecosystem that you suggested or you mapped in terms of the map that you did there, you show us, maybe if you can actually partner with the guys near you, especially Startup Mzansi, because it speaks to the startup which we are, and then try to actually organize one system that will work for us all, in actually for us to find one solution in one system. Because it's very difficult for us to navigate everyone from the internet to find who does what. Maybe in that way it will be simple for us to actually be encouraged in terms of finding the right solution for our challenges. Thank you.
All right, so it's a recommendation that you are making. So can I maybe start with the speakers to respond to questions that are direct to you? I start with Lisa because this was the last question. Maybe let's deal with it first and then.
Thanks very much for your question. I do think there's a great need to pool the resources that are out there so we can actually put everything in one place. And the irony is that everyone does an initiative and they think that their initiative is putting everything in one place, but then it's slightly different to everyone else's. And I think Andy, as a neutral convener of intermediary organizations, is in a nice position to maybe convene the conveners and actually say, okay, we're going to get Startup Mzansi, we're going to get Simodisa, who's also got a platform that's also mapping, we're going to get ourselves into a room and actually say, how can we work together on this better? So that there is a centralized place that everyone can be directed to. It is hard, but I definitely agree that we need you to not only put everything in one place, but then also help that information to get to the places where it needs to go in the most, user-friendly and simplest and cheapest way. So that's definitely something that I think we very much want to work together, and it's great actually to be invited by the DST to engage with them on how we might further map these things. So probably, thanks for your recommendation on that front, and I'd love to work with you as well in building that out. There was a question on access to markets, and I don't know if that was yet your question. And I would feel that I'm not best placed to answer that because I don't support entrepreneurs and I'm not an entrepreneur myself. Started selling sweets at the office, which is a bit of a fun thing, but no, I'm just joking. But from an ecosystem perspective, I feel like there's a lot of work that we can do to try and make the journey not so terrifying for you. That you kind of have this enormous challenge in front of you that, there should be a better understanding of what support is required at every single stage, and then sector specific and kind of tailored support at that very stage for you. So unfortunately, I'm not sure this is a recommendation for you other than, find those spaces that are exactly those support organizations that are specifically working in your sector that might be able to have the networks to provide access to those markets or access to those corporates who might look to integrate your business into their supply chain, and actually try and find the information that is specifically beneficial to you. Or find those spaces where it's quick to fail and fail fast, quick to test. Our lab seems like a place where you might be able to, not you personally, but your entrepreneurs might be able to test and fail fast if that's the case. So I think we need more spaces that allow entrepreneurs to do that, and maybe there is other funding that is required to allow entrepreneurs to safely test and fail and kind of see if there is a market there for your product. So unfortunately, I don't know if there's anyone in the room who might actually be better able to answer that question. I know there are. If I could actually see a show of hands, who here is an entrepreneur themselves? Okay, great. And are there any business development support providers or, someone who works in an incubator or accelerator or a mentor or something? So there are a few. So maybe perhaps you could shed some light afterwards, connect with those people who might be able to help you find those access to markets. But from an ecosystem perspective, we certainly need to partner more so we can de-risk this challenge and we can actually find tailored support at different stages.
Okay, can I then ask Sandile to, I think some of the questions she tackled were connected to what you potentially can deal with based on the presentation, so.
Understand. Okay, are we live?
Let's deal with the market access one.
Okay, the access to markets, I think it came from here and there,
Yeah.
right? With this one, you said like you're manufacturing glue. We'd love to help you with that. So if you can actually like link up with me, that one we can actually immediately do that because we're working like, we have a project that we've recently rolled out where we're taking manufacturing startups that goes to other entrepreneurs that are in the house as well. If you have if you're manufacturing some sort of a product or if you also need prototyping, we know that TIA does that as well. But if you also want, you can also come to us and we'll be glad to assist you. I think that one we can also talk about like offline. There's also another thing that I wanted to add. I think it came there, somewhere there, at the top. You talked about like not having entrepreneurs in this panel, right? I myself am an entrepreneur, and before we even started Startup Mzansi, I've been an entrepreneur, and obviously some of the initiatives or other responses that of the pains that we felt as entrepreneurs ourselves. So we've been trying to provide a direct, response to the pains that we've experienced as entrepreneurs. I'll probably suggest that if you just go in and read about us and the stuff that we do, and go and access that app, there's a whole lot of information that you can actually find there. Like, others can actually raise money from the app itself. You can connect to other entrepreneurs. You can do a variety of other things. But I couldn't be able to cover that since we were hit with time poverty. So there's just one last thing that I wanted to add. I want to say this, like science and technology and entrepreneurship is not a make today, drink tomorrow kind of a solution. We have to be very, very careful about that. And I always talk about that when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to the entrepreneurs that we work with. You cannot just, today you have an idea and tomorrow you just want to be driving a G4 and stuff like that. It doesn't really work like that. So you have to, there are some certain stages that you have to actually go through. And unfortunately in South Africa, you find like a whole lot of young entrepreneurs. Some of them, they are even more expectory than us as in the space. You find like someone coming into the space, they are coaches, they are mentors, they are advisors, but where do you get those credentials and stuff like that? You have to like follow some sort of a process. So that's just the last thing that I wanted to add into that thing. Thank you.
Okay, Alan. Tell them, my friend, your experience.
1, 2.
Sure.
Okay, so I think I got like one question about Art Lab specifically.
No,
but
no, answer any question that you think you would be able to tackle, because I'm allowing that, so the question doesn't have to deal with you.
Okay, cool.
So feel free to share your reflections.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, and then the issue with funding and collaboration. Some guy I think it was this guy at the top. Okay, I must actually sit here. So the guy at the top spoke about funding and so on. So what we do have at Art Labs, we have a lot of events and collaborations with different partners. So there would be like startup grind events that you would get invitations to and opportunities to actually go and pitch to funders on a regular basis, assuming that you actually want to do that. But as for you just getting funding, that's not something that we offer directly, but we have a large network of partners or investors that you can actually go and pitch to. So you can just get in contact with me afterwards. And then also the guy spoke about replicating Art Labs. So I don't think exactly replicating is the answer, but more collaborating. We can show you more or less what we're doing and how we tackle it in our communities, but you obviously have your own needs in your specific area. So we can see more or less how we can adapt our model, if you will, to kind of like suit your needs. But we are running what we call our Art Labs U, where we're literally trying to branch out Art Labs into different areas. So we can speak afterwards, we can see how we can handle that collaboration.
All right, excellent. All right, thanks very much. Few announcements. One of our panelists has to again catch a flight to Durban, but I think we've abused you enough already. So thanks for being patient with us and for the knowledge you've shared. The second, so we are leaving him really. The second one, I got some news here. At 25 to 5, there'll be apparently a closing session in this hall. So we have to be literally long out of here by that time. So perhaps another 5 minutes. The next announcement that came was that there is a cocktail dinner at about 6 o'clock this evening at the CSIR. So there's lots of parties going on after this. I'm going to stay. So I encourage you to stay, because I'll be here. All right. Okay, so that's out of there are a couple of other questions that in my own kind of capacity I could answer. Of course, I'm not a speaker, but I'm just helping with the little that I know. Look, I mean, feel free to approach Tia regarding the glue product. Sandile is there as potentially a person who can help you. No, when you deal with bureaucrats like us, somebody said that they need to replace us with machines because we take too long, so be ready for that. But when you have Sandile, he'll speed it up for you. That kind of, so I'm just basically highlighting sometimes the role of people like his outfit in trying to help you speed up things. And of course, we work hard also, so we promise we'll respond quickly. Right? Because you are looking for funding, it's less about access to markets. We don't have a product yet. So you want support to develop your product. Did I get it correctly? Exactly. So we've got, some technical support that we can provide and all of that. Right, so that's the one part. The other part, you mentioned, you still there, or he's gone? He spoke about, I'm going to come to the last round of questions. He spoke about people who have not run businesses and sitting in these DFIs and so on. There's nothing truer than that. If you're going to have the system working, guys, find the quickest ways to get rid of people like us in these organizations. And find people who run businesses. I can tell you, I've been to different countries doing benchmarking. Finland, France, Switzerland. These are the countries that are on #1 on the Global Competitiveness Index, Global Innovation Index, and. The staff in there are people who come from industry. They move when they get applications. They know how to judge applications. The difficulty is when you have people in these institutions who are scientists trying to evaluate somebody who's applying for money to start a business. They spend more time applying their science in the technology issue rather than looking in the business aspect of what we're trying to achieve. And that becomes a problem. I didn't say that, then don't quote me. So when you go out there and in this organization, don't say it's Patrick who started this movement. But I'm just giving it to you as part of the reality of the most efficient organizations that respond better to the needs of the innovators. Generally, the greater chunk of the staff is not scientists and engineers who look at the technology. It's people who have run businesses or people who've been in industry, and they know better how to look at that. So that's the one part. But there's another question about market access, getting funding, and so on. This goes for the venture capital, and I've got a bone to chew with venture capital in South Africa. The problem with getting money from venture capital, we spoke about it. In South Africa, there's a number of issues, but I'll tackle two of them. Venture capital companies are supposed to take startup companies when you're still developing your technology and take you to market. In Silicon Valley, most of VC, because operate in a very highly developed ecosystem, they look at companies that are already at post-revenue just to scale them up. And these are countries way up the value chain. In South Africa, VC does not have the luxury to handpick and cherry-pick people at that level because there's few and far in between of them exist. Now, when they are supposed to evaluate opportunities, a great deal of the staff is chartered accountants. They're interested in numbers and they're interested in revenue. If you don't produce revenue, they kind of say, sorry. Now, they can't even look at the technology to say, okay, if it doesn't have revenue, is this technology something we can bank on? They don't have the technical skills in their staff complements to look at the science and the engineering. So what you want in VC, you want people with financial skills, but you also want engineers and scientists in those companies to be able to look at the numbers. If you don't, to be able to look at the technology. That's how you'll get VC in South Africa investing in early stage technology opportunities. Think about it when you talk to them, watch and see how they respond to that. And this is a difficulty. Why VC is important? They are the quickest way of you and your technology to get to the market because they bring that mentorship, they bring the networks to the market, they bring all sorts of things that will accelerate you to the market. That's why we have a vested interest in a well-functioning venture capital system in South Africa. So I think let's take that and go think about it, do a little bit of research. You'll be amazed what is it that we can do if we can get our VC market working properly in the country. I'll be quiet, don't quote me on a lot of the things that I say because I say them in the other corridors. Okay, last 3, 4 questions, and then we close. Madam,
My name is Tebogo Mafona. Most of the questions and some answers were actually answered, especially the last speaker, which Mr. Tekhrab, you just answered part of what I wanted to comment. But the concern that I also have is having to start with instilling entrepreneurial spirit in youth. I think it must start from high school. You know, from around grade 10, where they need to, because at this point, we are encouraging our students or our children to say, post-matric, you go to university. And they graduate, the next thing they don't have jobs, or they're actually looking for jobs and being entrepreneurs. So once we start them from giving them advices or instill that spirit of entrepreneurship from the grade 10 when they start choosing their subjects until grade 12, they know that in the event that I don't pass my matric, then I've got something to fall on. And that was actually directed to Startup Mzansi. And I just also need to find out from Lisa, with regard to ADE, I came when you were starting, so I'm not sure how much I've missed. Does your organization help companies to start with enterprise development, or you help them, you know, how to go about doing their entrepreneur development programs? And lastly, I would say to Alan, I think, you know, I understand your language in terms of when you say, the language that you use when you speak to youth. It's something that we really need to look at because we need to be very current when you speak to the youth. The same way that the technology is taking part. I mean, like I was saying, that we don't have to instill, you know, a culture of having to go to university and graduate and look for a job. But once you start, you know, early in high school, where we say that in the event that I might not have money to go to university, but this is what I can do, you know, to start my enterprise or to start a business and take it from there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I saw 2 hands, they dropped. I saw your hand, and I saw your hand, and then your hand. So we've got 4 or 5, and then we can stop. So, all right. I hope I'll remember the sequence.
Thank you, Comrade Chairperson.
Sure.
I think there's an elephant in the room that we need to speak about, and that is technology itself being a problem in development and, in fact, increasing inequality. Now, I'm saying that with the assumption that inequality is a bigger problem than poverty and unemployment, and is rising because we tend to send money where money is. That's how development works. A construction company will build in Midrand or in Sandton because that's where the money is. They won't go to Engcobo because there's no money there. Now, you have a situation where, for example, let me take the panelists' organizations and the work that they do. You have Aspen who have this mapping. Perhaps I should ask it as a question rather than as a comment. Are there things like pamphlets and other hard copy materials that are handed out in taxi ranks and bus stations and that kind of thing to ensure that this information is accessible to everyone? Not just anyone with an internet connection or a computer or a smartphone, but everyone. Because these things need to go to where they need it most. That's how equity works. You have Startup Mzansi who have an app. Now, to access this app, you need to have a smartphone. Again, it's a limitation for us people in the rural areas. High unemployment, income average of 10,000 Rand per annum, people can't really afford these things. You go to our labs, which is situated, yes, it's in the townships in Cape Town, but it's still in the urban area. I've worked in Cape Town. I've worked in Nyanga, Kailicha. I've also worked in Robertson, where farm workers are exploited on a daily basis. Yes, I understand there are other issues in the Cape Flats also, but there is an ongoing, I think this issue of equity, inequity rather, we've inherited from the apartheid times. When are we really going to get out of this thing of sending money where money is? Without going into this thing of unmatched skills, where a lot of these government agencies are not accessible to people in the rural areas. The nearest NYDA office is 80 kilometers away, Mthatha. When I go to Mthatha, they'll tell me to go to East London, which is another 200 kilometers away, to go to the full service branch because they don't offer everything there. Now, I applied with TIA. They're based in Cape Town, 1,000 kilometers away, fine. They sent me to one of their partners, which is M Labs. They're also based in Cape Town. Now, both of these agencies, they only work with people who are based in Cape Town. When are we going to send resources where they are needed? Now, let's leave that for a while. I want to go to a very important case, the Treatment Action Campaign, where they fought private companies, the pharmaceutical companies, to reduce the prices of chronic medications, because this was hindering human rights in terms of access to medicines. Now, the internet is also an international human right. When are we, as technological innovators and people in this space, going to learn the lessons from the Treatment Action Campaign and that fight for antiretrovirals and bring it to this space so that a laptop no longer costs 4,000 Rand for an individual, but it costs 1,000 Rand. It's a little bit more accessible to the have-nots. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, Comrade Speaker. I got your points. It's really around access and not placing ourselves where the haves are, because they spoil us to lunch. You guys don't. So, but we'll negotiate and make sure that we come closer to the people. But I mean, it's a point highly appreciated. It's a point well taken. Okay, I had two other speakers, guys. I'm going to close it exactly 5 minutes from now because we have to exit the room. My hands have disappeared. Sir, yourself, it's yours, and then you, ma'am. But there's another hand that disappeared at this side. So I'll settle for the three, it's fine.
Good afternoon, sir. I would like to know how long does it take for TIA to respond an application? And again, I received the email from TIA saying that I should apply for Israel Embassy competition. So I didn't hear it here when you maybe advising other the entrepreneurs to apply also for the Israel Embassy competition. So yes, and right. Again, I would like to ask the agency to help us with the bankable business plans, because we are being challenged by the consultants, whereby we go there to help us with the business plans, and other way around they take our ideas and they sell it somehow. So we would like the agencies to help us with the business plan also in the meanwhile. Thank you.
All right. Okay. But you keep cheating and you came last. He came first, so but you are a lady, so I give you first. No, he comes after. He's a man.
No,
you come.
Okay.
No.
No, mine again is to respond to the questions you also raised in terms of what works and what's not working.
Sure.
I think in terms of, from my experience as an entrepreneur as well as a grassroots innovator, you know, having technical and business mentors really works in terms of these programs. But again, just to echo what my previous speaker just said as well, this issue of using consultants becomes very detrimental to entrepreneurs in the long term. Because again, your FDIs or funding institutions, they've got their database of business plan consultants, and most of the times those guys, they don't even know your technology or the industry that you work in. So it's copy and paste. And if you go to them and say, I've done a business model validation, I know my business in and out. What I need, unless they say to me, okay, come up with someone who can assist you to consolidate if there is a gap in my business plan or business model, then I'm fine with that. But not take my concept and say I'm going to allocate this consultant and then he's going to write your business plan, and then they end up giving me a Bible of a document that's not going to be even relevant with in my business going forward. So they need to be flexible. As similar to the R-Lab experience, they need to speak our language and understand where we come from and the challenges and the flexibility in terms of doing things. Again, another issue that in terms of what works as well, we in terms of the value chain development, in terms of clustering businesses, if FDIs, because you're sitting with different applications, you know who's doing what where, and then those are the innovators that come to your offices to say, I need support in this and that. If you identify the linkages, kind of force that or encourage that coordination among your entrepreneurs in terms of building that value chain, because it means, again, in terms of your support, you've got a coordinated support. Another issue, the time frame really in terms of responding to the funding applications is really poor in some of these FDIs, because you'll submit an application, it takes 6 months just to hear to say you've been taken forward in terms of evaluation and stuff like that. And another recent trend that I've also picked up in terms of the product development, if you're coming with a new technology in the market, of course, yes, the risk appetite is very, very, very minimal in terms of the funders. But again, now you go to institutions like your ESCOM and other entities, whereby they're telling you now that we can't take your new product. You have to wait for us to issue an expression of interest or a tender, and then that's only then can you be part of our supplier development program. I mean, that doesn't really work, because if they haven't thought about it, whereas you come up with a solution, it means you will be waiting forever until such a stage that they wake up and realize that there's something that's happening. So, I mean, those are some of the challenges that we are faced with, and things need to change in terms of how the FDIs or even your DST institutions are looking into these innovations in terms of the funding and support going forward. Thank you.
Okay. I'll ask that gentleman to speak last. We won't invite you again. You have too many problems. But it's good experience when we hear these kind of things, because they really tell us that we are good for nothing sitting on the other side. All right, say.
Hi, my name is Hudisani Mukawuri. I know that's a bit rough around the tongue. I come from a non-profit organization called the South African Tertiary Tuition Fees Regulator, and we assist financially challenged tertiary students to pay for their fees. I just have two polite requests. The first one, unfortunately, Mr. Sandile's left us, but yeah, the first one was just to ask for his business card as well as Lisa's business card, so that I can just set up a proper appointment with the both of you. And the second one is directed to Ellen. Yes. Yeah, to Ellen. I actually liked that presentation a lot. And I come from a small town in Louis Trichardt in Venda. And the king of Venda also comes from the same town where I come from, and I've got great close relations with him. So I wanted to get his details as well, so that I can set up a meeting between the three of us. He could really help our town with his project. Thanks.
All right, no, that's a good connection. Let's keep it close. No, but I think it's an important point. I know we're being silly about it, but it's really true. You heard, Lisa, I went to Phokeng during the week, not to meet the king, but it's interesting what I found there. in kingdoms, the structure, and the ease of making an impact in a space where there's structure, in a culture with people who are a form. It's amazing. So they must give you their business cards. All right, so we're done with the question session and comments. I think we got quite a lot of good material. But there are people who had few questions. I know the lady there, Tebogo, asked a question specifically, so you can respond to that, Lisa. And then the other questions I'll answer around the Israel embassy thing from Tia's side. I'll answer. And then I'm going to really ask you that we close because they're going to check us out of the room. Lisa?
Great, hi. So you asked about, I think, about the young people, about fostering support for young people as well. And I think it's crucial that we support an entrepreneurial mindset more than anything. You know, the reality is it's very difficult for a young person to start a business, especially if you're a first-time graduate in your family and you get offered a job. I mean, if you're lucky, then, you know, why would you turn that down? So I think if you can foster leadership skills within the youth that can activate certain leadership potentials to activate change down the line or in any sector that you ultimately work, I think that's really the power of and the beauty of entrepreneurship as well. So, so that you do ultimately apply those to a job if you get them, and then one day you do become that entrepreneur that can create jobs. So I think entrepreneurial mindset is crucial, and also talent. You know, there are lots of small businesses that are looking for young people to work for them. So it's not about being an entrepreneur necessarily yourself, but lots of entrepreneurs need specific attributes in young people to actually help them, because it's extremely expensive to attract and retain top talent for small businesses. And there's organizations like Harambee and others that are actually placing young people in small businesses and SMEs. And then your question around whether Andy itself provides enterprise development support at all, or so we are an organization that does not provide direct support to entrepreneurs, but we are a network for those organizations that are supporting entrepreneurs. So we do have some corporates within our network. We help them get around the table, have dialogues around the issues they're grappling with to try and make their enterprise development programs better. So that's the kind of facilitation that Andy can do. So we don't, unfortunately, provide direct support, but potentially within our network. And I just wanted to touch on comrade speaker from the Eastern Cape. I'm also from the Eastern Cape, so I really think that your point around addressing inequality, especially with tech being the elephant in the room, is so crucial, because tech, you know, we need to absolutely address digital inclusion. We need to make broadband accessible. We need to make these mobile phones, smartphones accessible for the whole population at a much cheaper price, because those things, if you are in the rural areas that you're far away from the action in Gauteng, you know, at least there are some barriers that could be broken if there's access to information online, or if there are other ways that the digital world can actually bridge some of those divides. And I think, you know, also empowering digital entrepreneurs, empowering young people through digital literacy, these are all need to be absolute priorities for the DST and the government, and, you know, rolling out broadband and things like that. So I think that's incredibly important, and I think those were the two. Oh, and you said, is our map available through pamphlets and things like that? So as I mentioned, I mean, we are a non-for-profit, so we don't have a lot of resources ourselves. And so what we wanted to do was make it, quote unquote, as simple as possible. It's just a PDF document. It wasn't expensive for us to make. But no, we don't print it and copy it, and I think we should, and maybe we should look for partners that would be, you know, in a position to do that and make it more accessible. So thank you for that point. But also just to reiterate that this was actually designed for intermediary organizations to say, okay, we're an incubator. Who else is supporting? Who can I actually put my entrepreneurs on to get funding? So who is supporting at the next stage, and how can they create those linkages to make the ecosystem itself, you know, function a bit better and connect those dots a bit better. So it wasn't designed intentionally for entrepreneurs, but hopefully it's a tool that they can use as well.
All right, guys, you have the last word. It's 4:30. Even if I had God's powers, I couldn't keep you beyond this. We need to come out of the room because they have to prepare for the closing session. Thanks very much to everybody. I think we had a good chat. Madam Rapporteur, hello. We got everything in order. Thank you very much. Okay, can I talk to your questions bilaterally, guys, if you don't mind, right? Okay. All right, thanks very much, everybody. The session is adjourned. Thank you.
for those who want to.
All right. Oh, actually, I shouldn't be checking us out because the closing session is here, so we can wait for the other to come in and join us for the prayer. All right. So we don't have to really go out. Sorry, it's my fault.
You can take a minute or two of comfort break while we wait for other colleagues to come in and join us for the closing. Okay, colleagues, can we settle down so that we close? Can we settle down, please? Unless you don't want to leave today. Colleagues, please settle down. Thank you very much. Young people at the back, thank you very much. Mr. Imran Patel is going to do the closing remarks very briefly. But before he does so, we are going to read a declaration, which is a statement of principle that captures the spirit and the issues that we have discussed today. After doing that, we will then invite inputs into that statement of principle so that we leave this room being on the same page about the things that we are committing to. It will be read by Usis Nonhlanhla Mkhize, and then we will open the floor for inputs, after which we will ask for somebody to move for the adoption and a seconder, and we adopt a statement of principle about the things that we were discussing today. But most importantly, there are recommendations that we want to take which will inform the programs that will address the issues that have been raised. Those recommendations are not complete for a number of reasons. Firstly, because people did not exhaust all the issues that they wanted to raise or discuss in commissions or in thematic sessions. So for that reason, the DST has taken a decision to open a window period of about a week, and I think Ms. Nonhlanhla is going to explain it, that you can make inputs further before we finalize the actual recommendations. I think it will be online, and delegates will have an opportunity to speak more and raise more issues and make more recommendations, after which these will be consolidated and finalized and hopefully shared with you at a later stage. But what we need to do now is to make sure that we are all on the same page in terms of the spirit and purport of this meeting, as we discussed the whole day. So I'd like to call upon Ms. Nonhlanhla to come and present the declaration, after which we will then make inputs very briefly, enhance it, and then adopt it, and we take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mava. Good afternoon. Sanbonan. Okay, when we shared the concept document for this Indaba, one of the expected outputs was a declaration of intent in terms of reflecting on the conversations that we would have had today. And this declaration is basically composed of extracts from the sessions that you had throughout the day. So as Mava has said, we will go through the declaration and with the intention of adopting it here so that it goes as part of the formal documentation, one of the outputs of this Indaba. But I also want to repeat what he said, that we are, in being responsive to the concerns that were raised by some of the delegates in terms of the time allocated to the sessions, that some of you had indicated that there was not enough time to engage with the subject matter in the different themes. We will be from, I think it's from Monday, from the 12th, I'm told it's the 12th on Monday, 12th of June, until Friday, 12 to 16, there will be, where you are registering to attend this Indaba within on the DST website, we will create space for you to submit recommendations for the action plan. The action plan, before I go into this, the declaration, the action plan will basically be your own recommendations in terms of what do you want to see so that we have a more inclusive system of innovation that is able to respond to issues of youth. Understood? Understood? Thank you. So I'm going to start with the declaration. So what we say is that going back to the issues when we had the first session, what has brought us here is in line with the National Youth Policy and also the National Development Plan's commitment and the recognition of the role of youth and science, the centrality of science, technology, innovation in our development. So the first statement is we recognize that in line with the National Youth Policy and the NDP and the Science and Technology Innovation Policy Framework, that an innovative and entrepreneurial youth population is key for South Africa's long-term inclusive growth and development. Happy with the statement? Happy? Unhappy? Thank you. Recognize, okay, comment? No comment, thank you. Recognize that different system of innovation stakeholders are already cooperating and collaborating in advancing inclusion of youth in science, technology, innovation. Happy? Unhappy? Yes, sir. Solution, please.
I'd just like to add that we're not efficiently cooperating. There's a lot of people having issues when they engage with these organizations.
Okay. So how do you propose we rephrase? Is it an additional text or is it an additional word?
Well, I wouldn't say, I'd say an additional word, already cooperating, but not efficiently.
Okay. So, recognize that different system of innovation stakeholders are already cooperating and collaborating in advancing inclusion of youth. Will it work for you if we said, however, there is a need to improve or there's a need for more efficiency in this collaboration?
Well, I think there's low efficiency, so I think the emphasis should be that it's inefficient.
Okay. Understood, so.
Okay, let me help there.
Yeah.
Maybe before recognize, we say, although not sufficient, recognize blah, 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 to accommodate you.
No, efficient, so not efficient. Well, we're engaging with the people, but we're not getting the result.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Our opening line will be, although not sufficiently, we recognize that different system of innovation stakeholders are already cooperating.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Although not efficiently, because that's his word, ne?
Yes.
Although not efficiently.
Yes.
Okay. Sir, we will start with that, although not efficiently. We recognize that, blah, blah, blah. Thank you. Okay, the third one, recognize that for an inclusive growth and development agenda, equity in access, participation, and enjoying the benefits of science, technology, innovation is not optional. Happy? Unhappy?
Sorry? Is it participation, can we, because that participation to me doesn't come, is it participation in the STI only or participation also to influence the policies that drive the STI? Because we need to make a distinction also.
Okay, so I've noted you. Please speak through me, please.
Or
I've noted you.
Honorable Chairperson?
Yes.
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 Am I recognized?
I've recognized you now, although you had recognized yourself, but I'm recognizing you now.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. That participation.
Yes.
Is it the participation only as the STI beneficiation, or also looking beyond that to say how do you influence those who are doing policy making so that this it does not? It must recognize us from that particular point before you can get to implementation.
Okay.
I just wanted to understand that.
It's open. Remember, this is not a DST or the Minister of Science and Technology's declaration. It has to work for you.
Yes.
So what I've noted in terms of what you've just said is that we must be clear in
Yes.
terms of what we're saying.
Yes.
So we can break it down and say it's participation as beneficiaries, as co-creators, as whatever. Give me the wording, please.
Okay, here's the wording. Where is this now?
This one.
Recognize that for an inclusive growth and development agenda, equity in access, participation, and in enjoying the benefits of science, technology, and innovation across the STI value chain is not optional.
Okay. Say.
Does it address you, sir?
Yeah, when you say across, which means, yeah, it's fine. It will
Across
across
the
from
value chain.
policy to implementation.
Yes.
Yeah, we need to be very specific.
Okay. Say, there was one hand up at the back as well. Yes.
No, I'm captured now.
You are captured? Yeah. Hey, captured has many meanings now. Okay, we say your concerns are covered.
My concerns have been addressed.
Thank you. We don't want people confused here. And we don't want to send, we want to make sure that we are on the same wavelength, that there's no one on 702 while most of us are on Ukhozi. Yes, sir. So you are fine as well when we include across the STI value chain. Thank you. Yes, sir. What is meant by that? Simple English. What is meant by not optional?
You don't have
It's not
to.
negotiable. You can't, yeah, you cannot choose. Okay, so we're saying it's compulsory, not that it's not optional. Simple, it's Friday, let's be clear with our words. So what you want, you don't want the words it's not optional, you want to say it's compulsory. Thank you, you are moving us forward. So replace not optional with compulsory. Okay, so let's continue. Recognize that technology is transforming the manner in which people transact, create, disseminate, and apply knowledge, and that collaborative multi-stakeholder responses are required for integrating technology for an inclusive and prosperous South Africa. Happy? Thank you. In the Youth Science, Technology, Innovation Indaba Declaration, the parties agreed to the following. 1, harmonize strategies, programs, and action plans to advance effective and efficient inclusion of youth in science, technology, and innovation.
I've got, Madam Chair.
Where's the hand? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Policies is very important because strategy follow policies.
So we insert
Policy
Policies.
before strategy.
Policies, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So harmonize policies and yeah. Thank you for that. Yebo Karap.
Yo, sorry. Can
We
you
don't know
add-
what your means, yeah? Is that part of your input?
No. Mam Nontantla, can you just add policies and procedures? Because you can have a policy, but if there are no procedures that are in line, then you are just dealing with consideration, human consideration.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. That's done. Okay, thank you. The other point, this next point is strengthen and expand the contribution of institutions of higher education and science councils to support youth innovation and entrepreneurship through making research and innovation infrastructure accessible. Happy? Unhappy?
No. The science councils have got a problem. They need to say, before you expand their contribution, the transformation issue of it must also be included there. Because you would expand a system that it's narrow in terms of beneficiary. I think that, because we have seen that the science councils are very problematic in terms of transformation.
Can you propose text? Okay,
Where is that?
this one.
Strengthen and expand the contribution of institutions of higher education and transformed science councils. So we put transformed.
The next one is strengthen collaboration amongst key actors of the system of innovation to the benefit of youth through technical mentoring, support, and business administration. Happy? Yebo, I've noted two. Yebo Karap, you are next.
Strengthen and invite further collaboration.
Strengthen and invite further collaboration.
Yeah, amongst key
You see,
actors.
my first language is isiZulu. We don't have an R. So I almost said collaboration. So,
No, I also speak English in self-defense, so.
so you're saying Karabo, please?
Strengthen and invite further collaboration.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Sorry to just draft you back. On the previous one, is there a reason why we left lower education? Institutions of higher education.
There was a missed call, sir. Please repeat.
I'm saying on the previous one, it says strengthen and expand the contributions of institutions of higher education.
Yes.
In terms of lower education, we feel entrepreneurship is too early for them, or was there a reason why we left?
Remember, this is text that comes from the different sessions. Is there a wording that you want to insert? All institutions of education?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, lower and higher.
All.
For the sake of progress, can I make, yes, sir, madam?
Sorry. So I just wanted to clarify there where it says through technical mentoring, support, and business administration. What kind of support is that? Is it operational? Because I think that's important as to how the support is taking place. So maybe I would need operational support if I was in that, if I wanted to benefit from that system. So outside of having a mentor, I think I would like to be supported operationally as well.
The room, the colleague is making a recommendation that we include, before the word support, that we include operational. So the sentence will read, strengthen collaboration, strengthen and invite further collaboration amongst key actors of the system of innovation to the benefit of youth through technical mentoring, operational support, and business administration. Thank you. On this point,
Yeah.
not on the previous one, I'm using my power as chair. We're moving forward. We're not going to go back to previous statements. I've noted you, yes. Okay. Okay, so thank you. So, who wants to see operational inserted in that sentence, in that text? Remember, this is what is coming from the sessions. That's number one. Number two, I'm of the view, but remember, this is not a DST document, it's our document. I'm of the view that leaving it open to say support, so it can accommodate different types of support is more beneficial than limiting it to operational. But that's not my decision, I don't want to dictate. So I'm going to say, let's vote. Who wants to see operational in that text? We're going to keep it like this, and
Chair.
you've just, yeah.
Can I-
Yeah.
okay.
I want us to move forward. We're not going to debate this any longer. We're going to keep it as is. But I also want to say that we're going to make the presentations of these sessions available, because the session that was here on innovation support and funding instruments gave an overview of what is currently available that is based on research. So can we please move? Thank you.
I wanted to add, Chairperson.
Point before we move. Very briefly that, please can we just understand that the declaration is a broad statement of intent, a statement in principle. The detail is going to be in the action plan. The action plan will talk about all sorts of support that are relevant to the programs. But at this level, we're speaking broadly in principle. Thanks.
And you don't want to limit ourselves at this stage. So I'm moving to the next paragraph. Call for the transformation of the financial sector to ensure that it responds to youth innovations and invest in appropriate business management and entrepreneurship capacity in funding institutions. Happy? Not happy? Thank you. We are together now. Ensure that the intellectual property management framework responds to innovation by youth. Happy? Unhappy? Thank you, thank you. Strengthen the science, technology, innovation dialogue with the youth across South Africa, particularly in rural areas. In this regard, the youth is encouraged to use existing and create new platforms. There should be a word new. I remember that somebody said it. Create new platforms to advance inclusion in the system of innovation. Happy? Thank you. Strengthen collaboration across the system of innovation, particularly in making funding available to support youth innovation, particularly in areas relevant for improving the standard of living in South Africa. These areas include education, water, sanitation, health, food and nutrition security, renewable energy, and conservation of biodiversity. I've noted 2 hands. Yes, sir, and then I'll come to you, sir. Yeah, I've recognized you. Create a new. Okay, thank you. Yes, it's redundant. It's Friday, it's after lunch. I sincerely apologize. You see, my English is starting, it's already on the N1. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would like to request a change of making and replace it with ensuring. Making is not adequate enough for a declaration, particularly in ensuring instead of in making.
Okay, so making funding, so it's ensuring.
Yeah,
Okay.
because ensuring gives it more weight.
With ensuring. Happy with that proposal? Yeah, boss, sir.
Can we add transport as well?
Transport?
Yes.
Okay. Areas. Thank you.
Oh, no. I've got a huge concern. Why are we specifically narrowing energy to only renewable? Why don't we leave it as energy? We cannot narrow it to renewable only.
Okay,
We need to say energy.
okay,
It's a-
save, okay,
It become biased.
okay.
Can I elaborate on that? The reason why it's renewable is because all the other energies are destructive to the environment on which we live in. So the only renewable one is at least it's in line with the nature's principles. Therefore, we expect to live longer if we use that one.
Okay, so thank you. The points have been taken. That, yes, yeah, yes, and there's going to be a cocktail. We're not paying for the other forms of liquids, but we encourage you to engage further when we have the cocktail function. Let's go back to the declaration. Yes. Okay. I'm going to give an okay, thanks, it's fine. So we'll talk about energy storage, more efficient use of energy, and then renewable energy. We'll find the text, but the point that is being made is noted. Cleaner energy. Yeah, cleaner energy. Thank you. So now we get to the next one. Yebo. Is it not the last point? Ne? Yes, move with us. Okay. So the next paragraph is call for the acceleration of the implementation of the cabinet resolution on adoption of locally developed technologies with an emphasis and preferential allocation for youth innovations. Yes. Thank you. Strengthen multi-stakeholder efforts to improve public understanding of science, technology, and innovation, and implement more STEM projects in primary and high schools. We're still going to clean this up. Is this fine? Are we happy? And then the connectivity issue comes. Make connectivity affordable and improve connectivity infrastructure to support township and rural economies. This is the end of the declaration. My colleagues, one meeting, and it's this side. Thank you. Can we move for the adoption of the declaration? Yes, sir. Inclusion of youth in manufacturing. In the development of the manufacturing sectors. Okay, that's a new addition. Any opposition to that?
We are fine.
Thank you, we agree. There was another hand. Okay, that was the last hand. Okay, these are the last four hands. Yes, I'll come that side, ne? Okay. Ensuring, the colleague is saying, instead of saying make connectivity affordable, say ensure that connectivity is affordable. Okay. Thank you. The lady at the back. You are covered, comrade. Thank you. We come this side.
I'm sorry, I didn't notice if we talked about impact assessment of the innovation we actually do, because we're making declarations, but we need to know how impactful our innovation is actually taking place.
Can you give us text for that?
Regular reports on impact assessments of innovation on regular basis. Regular impact assessments.
Regular impact assessments.
Report on regular impact assessments.
Okay. The next one, yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
You see, how
so,
serious the point is, sorry. It's brought 3 seniors just to listen to you. So,
okay, colleagues, I think we can't exhaust everything today. As I said, this is a statement of principle. We value the suggestions. We will make sure that we tighten it up. And I think that we should leave it at that. Unless there's a burning issue, I'm going to ask for somebody to move for the adoption. I hope those 2 hands are burning. It must really be burning, because I'm going to cut you. Sorry. If it's cold, I'm cutting you. All right, we start with you.
About gender, unless we did not include other conversations that were happening in other rooms.
Okay,
So
gender, noted. We must formulate a sentence about gender in the STI environment. Thank you very much. The other hand? Yes, sir?
Say very quickly that while we're waiting for this to go through government, we must strengthen collaboration across the systems in our business. We must use this declaration in our businesses. So when this becomes ready, we're already used to the infrastructure that's here.
Okay, that's noted. No. No. Hands keep springing up. And I don't want any more hands now. No, you've been speaking the whole day, sir. No. No. Okay, the orange guy. Yes, sir, go for it.
All these things, but there's no identity. How have we identified this youth? I believe we should have at least 3 principles that we can add there, so that whoever is inspired to be part of this group here can have a uniform identity, for example, of mutual respect and other values, 2 other values that we can add that will define us as a country or as a society or as a nation. I think that
I'm not sure if I understand that. Okay, all right. I think my colleagues have grasped it. We'll try and incorporate that. Very last hand. Switch on your mic.
Would make sense if there's still communication further. And I've got a great feeling that we all registered to be here. So we've got our contacts, emails and
Yes.
telephones.
Yes,
if
we
you can create, I'm not sure what it's called, that bulk emailing system,
Yeah.
where we can interact at a very, very,
Yeah, point taken. Thank you very much. Can we get a seconder? Seconded, declaration adopted. Thank you very much. Mr. Imran Patel is going to give us a vote of thanks.
Sorry, Chair, can I ask something? Are we going to get presentation on the website? It's very important. Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
presentations will be on the website.
Thanks, Marva. I think it's been a long day, so I'm not going to take up much of your time. And thanks for adopting the declaration. The comments I want to make before I just thank colleagues is that this is a start of a process. It's not an end of the process. And I think we can think of creative means as a group to build on this. I thought the last comments about what's missing in this declaration were important. I support all of them. And we need to think about how we include manufacturing and gender, etc. But we can get a 10-page document. I think it's a good enough start, and let's build on that. And the key, though, is that we need to see ourselves as a community. Nhlanhla has been stressing this. This is not a declaration by young people to government or a specific government department. This is our collective commitment. And let's see how we can make this collective commitment work through the action plan. It's not necessarily going to be easy, but as the DST, and you've heard from the Minister, we committed to work with young people to look at innovative ways of even how we organize ourselves, how we work, and how we implement this. So let's also adopt some innovation in how we take forward some of these principles of intent in terms of our action plan. So I think it's been a very good start. I missed most of the afternoon sessions, but I think this declaration helps us as a DST at least to begin to have a youth into science, technology, and innovation agenda that we jointly co-own and we jointly take forward. How we take this forward, and there were discussions about regular engagements like this, we will think about this and work with people as a start to see how we create it. I think what we should do as a start, though, is create online platforms for engagement. I find that there's too many times where people wait for coming to a meeting. And let's see whether we can jointly set ourselves the target of creating an online platform that attracts in the next year at least 10,000 young people. Because we're not going to be able to accommodate 10,000 young people in the convention center across different parts of the country, because we also don't want to make this very Gauteng base. So let's look at that. And if there's innovators in the crowd who can help us manage and maintain and develop Facebook and using the current existing media platforms, please do this. This is jointly co-owned. We don't own the Youth Innovate hashtag. It's our collective innovation, our collective tag. So let's make it work. On that point, let me thank everyone for attending, especially the group that stayed to the dying ends to make sure that the declaration is something that can be used, can be a powerful signal. I particularly want to thank you for joining us as part of what I see as a long-term journey of increasing our ability as an NSI to engage and interact with young people and to make this a youth-engendered national system of innovation. That's a longer journey, but I think we can do that. So thanks for your time. Thanks for coming through. And I hope that the time you spend to shape our thinking will bear long-term results. I want to thank our partners and participants. There were many organizations that came here. The strength of this declaration is the words that we use, we as the collective. So thanks for everyone. Thanks for those people who gave their time to think about their presentations, to help us steer the discussions, etc. And then last but not least, I want to thank the organizing team within the DST and in our entities as an initially, and I see that people have pulled together. That people have helped us to pull together the chambers of commerce, people who are committed to this journey. Thanks for your time, and we hope you'll be able to. I'm getting too many notes. Yes, I've got the same note. Before I forget that. So thanks, and I hope to see most of the people who are participating in this in future events. It might not necessarily be only in broad events like this. We may want to have much more smaller engagements with people where we facilitate, where we call people to the DST and say, let's spend a few hours taking forward what we started discussing around financing forward, and we hope that you would be able to participate in those events, and we will see how we can enable that participation. So on that basis, I thank you, but before I finish off, I'm told to remind people that there is a session tomorrow. This was the formal part. There's some training workshops on pitching and whatever. I think it's in your program. It starts at 9 o'clock at this venue, and it goes on till 12, and there is lunch after that. So please take time to attend that. I've been told that it's very, very useful. You'll learn quite a lot of skills. The cocktail is outside. Let's use the opportunity to further network and engage and drive safely. Like the minister says, get home safely if you're using public transport, and don't overindulge. Thank you. Bye-bye.